News Weekly. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 117 in year 3, and man, do we have some news to talk about. But unfortunately, we have to start the podcast off with some sad news because it was revealed this week that George Perez, the legend in comic books, has been diagnosed with stage 3 inoperable pancreatic cancer. And he has opted to forego treatment and just kind of live out the rest of his days with his wife. Sad news. Clay, I don't know if what was his big contributions are like legendary things, right? Like Infinite
Yeah.
Crisis, on
Infinite
Earth.
Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Earths, like
Yeah,
the big one that started everything having to do with the Crisis
yeah.
events. He
Infinity
was
Gauntlet, right?
Infinity Gauntlet over at Marvel. He was really big with the Avengers versus JLA.
Mm-hmm.
That very famous Superman uh, splash page with Mjolnir and Captain America's shield was all George Perez.
Yeah.
His Wonder Woman run was a really big part of his career as well. He has done a lot of stuff. He worked a bunch with Marv Wolfman over at Teen Titans
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. So he put a staple on art whenever it came to 70s and 80s
Yeah.
comic books.
Yeah, easily a legend. He has the famous page, if I'm not mistaken, of Superman holding Supergirl, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the very famous one. He, of course, did the the one that's in that same series is the one with the Flash dying,
Yeah.
um, with Wally West Flash holding Barry's like ripped up suit.
Yeah.
There is also the all the variant covers for Infinite Crisis written by Jeff Johns were all George Perez as well.
Yeah.
So it sucks, dude.
Yeah, it's
In the words of Stephen Amell's old campaign, fuck cancer, dude.
yeah,
That
dude. This is
sucks.
for those of you that have been listening to the podcast for a long time, you guys know that I had my own podcast where I love talking about hard things to talk about and stuff like that. Me and Clay was on it, and we talked about how we both not really big fans of death. We don't think it's the best thing, and it is a big fear of ours. And like in your situation, Clay, would you say you had the same career as Mr. Perez here? Are you foregoing treatment just to spend the last year with your wife? Because you're married, I'm not. So
I am married. That is a
it's
loaded
40 years
question.
of marriage.
40 years of marriage. He was a comic book rock star. Um and his health was declining. That was the main reason why he stopped working.
Yeah, he retired
Uh
in 2019.
Yeah. And he retired from everything in 2019.
Yeah,
It's not like other people usually retire and then go to cons. He retired from everything. He
yeah.
was like, hey, I'm just going to stay home. Um, there is a bit of an update from George Perez himself.
Oh, really?
Um, so the very next day, because Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of social media exploded with
With him.
appreciation
Yeah.
of his
I saw
art
Tom
and
King's and
yeah,
everybody's.
and basically everybody just pouring out love for him. So he says here, "Wow, simply wow, words cannot adequately express how overwhelmed I am by the enormous number of comments expressing so much support and affection for me. I have yet to read all of the thousands of lovely posts and photos from fans, friends, and colleagues, some familiar friends, some friends of the spirit, and all family. My one working eye is a little blurry right now from the strain of tears, so I hope I can get back in a day or two and provide a coherent response along with any updates I may have regarding my life's journey. Until then, I will say once again, thank you all. I am blessed beyond my worth and humbled by your favor."
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I don't know, man. Like for me, I think living that life
Mhm.
of because I think it was late 70s going into 80s. So let's see here: 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s.
Essentially,
40,
as long as he was married to his wife, he was doing comics, it seems
yeah,
like.
40 years. And he hit it off like almost immediately,
Yeah.
especially with, of course, Crisis on Infinite Earths, like really making him explode. Um, I think I would be content, you know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, because I remember hearing Kevin Smith saying, had he died when he had his heart attack, he said he would have been fine.
yeah,
And he's like, I did enough. And I'm just like, me right now, I'm like, I haven't done shit. So I just, I don't, I mean, I'm not his age, you know? I'm not
yeah,
Perez's age. I haven't had Perez's life. I don't know if he was someone that traveled the world and got to experience a bunch of crazy things. When you get that age, maybe you do feel content. You know what I mean? Maybe you are like, you know what? If I survive another 6 to 8 months, like another year, especially after 2 years of COVID, I can only imagine you're
yeah.
probably just like, fuck. But I don't know if the fear would ever allow me to tap out. Like I in my brain as of right now feel I will work on something creative until the day I die because I
I
feel
could
like
see that.
creativity pushes me to keep
Yeah,
going. And like I after this last year I've felt like okay, I need to learn when to rest. Like I need to not push my body to the extremes because I am getting older and stuff and I'm still pretty fucking young. But like even though mentally like I'm more concerned about that nowadays. So I'm like, you know what, if I need to take a day off, I'll take a day off and then we'll hit it hard tomorrow. And yeah, I mean as of right now I'm probably what half of Perez's age. Is he in his 60s? I'm
I
assuming.
think he is in his 70s. Let me actually double
Oh
check.
shit. Well, yeah. Even if he is in his 70s, so essentially, I'm still half his age. It seems like.
He
Um.
oh well, no, he is 67 years old.
Okay. So then, yeah, almost, yeah, literally half. Because I'm 33. So yeah.
Yeah,
Um. So yeah, if you were to ask me again in 33 years, I may have a different answer. But like my brain is like, we're going for that 100. We're going for the double digits. We're trying to hit that shit. Because I want to be that person that somebody reads a random article about and they're just like, who the fuck is this 100-year-old person that just died? You know what I mean? Every time I see some like little old Asian lady that's like 117, I'm like, what? I'm like, how? Like, what the
dude.
fuck?
I'm sorry. At that point, though, like, what do you even do? You just sit there.
Dude, no. Well, here's the thing. Did you ever see that TikTok of that like 60-plus-year-old black man that looked like he was like 20 something? And he was like rock hard abs doing like
No.
crazy work. Dude, insane. I was like, you can look like that at 60 something? I was like, holy shit. Like my goal is, dude, is if I can get the money to the point where I can have a personal trainer and stuff and start eating a lot healthier, that's my goal in life. I have no problem eating healthy food. It's just I don't have the convenience right now to do that, which is sad.
True.
Which is sad. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I could be somebody that like if I only ate let's just to even it out like 10 out of like 7 out of 10 meals could easily be vegan for me. And I feel
Yeah.
like I'd be fine because I've eaten vegan food. It's pretty good. I literally went to some place called the Cove today. Hey, bean and cheese nachos, but still they were
Nice.
delicious. Um but they had a lot of like healthy alternative foods if I wanted to buy something. So yeah, man, I think that kind of stuff I'm very adamant about. But yeah, I think it just all depends, man. Like you know, if you're stretching every morning, you're trying to take care of yourself. I think you can live a really long life. There's no telling what the hell's going to happen with technology in the future. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
gonna be able to just put our brains in a robot body and be like beep boop 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 beep. We already saw that crazy ass one that I made a video about. That shit was nuts. But yeah, man, I don't know. That would be a hard decision. But if you are going to live out the rest of your like year just spending the max amount of time with your wife, I can understand that
Yeah.
because she has to keep going on after you. You know what I mean? And like probably going to be alone. I don't know her age. I don't know if there's like a huge age difference between them. Cuz I saw a photo of a woman that said it was like you know, every day you get to wake up loving George Perez is a great day or something like that. She
Hmm.
looked younger. So I don't know if there's a age difference between them, or maybe she just looked really good for her age. But she's got to continue, man. And that's how I feel like every time like I see my grandmother and realize that it's been like over 10 years since my grandfather passed, and she's still going,
Fuck.
you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, fuck, man, like it's rough. Because there are some people that don't continue. Like they
Yeah.
literally die of a broken heart.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, fuck, dude, that's crazy. So, we wish George Perez all the best health. I would hope that there's some kind of miracle, but he's not doing treatment, so I don't it would literally be a miracle at that
Yeah.
point. Hopefully maybe he got the COVID vaccine and it's just gonna fucking go there and fucking that shit out. And then COVID vaccine's all like, fuck this, you ain't taking Perez. And then, we get some shit like that. But I don't know, man. I wish
Batman
him the
News
best.
Weekly confirmed COVID
Yeah,
is the
that
cure
would
to
be
COVID vaccine cure
some
to
shit.
cancer.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I wish him the best, and I hope that he has longer than he expects, because they're saying 6 months to a year. I hope he
Yeah.
goes 2 to 3, like even if anything. I hope he goes many, many more than that. But there have been people that like you change your diet, you change all this kind of stuff, it helps.
Yeah.
So we wish you the best, Mr. Perez. You are a legend, and we hope you guys still have many more years to go. Um, Moving on from that, we have some. Let's talk about the Tom Taylor news, since we are going to be talking about him later when it comes to comic books. You said that he did something that you were not expecting.
Yeah, he announced today, actually. Let me actually grab the actual quote here. We some
Did he
friends
just
of
tweet it
mine.
out, or what? Or was it
He
an
did
article?
no, he did actually tweet it out himself. He has signed on to an exclusive contract at DC. He says here, I'm excited to announce that I have signed an exclusive contract with DC Comics. I cannot wait to share everything we have planned for the future. You'll see up, and away.
Do you think he takes over for the main Superman run?
He is taking over this. The main Superman run is the one that he's currently writing.
Well, but like that's wait. So the main Superman run is what's his face,
Is John?
and it's not Cal.
No.
That's
The only the only Superman comic that you can read Clark in right now is Action Comics
Mhm.
or Justice League with Bendis. I think that they give him
Bendis
Justice
is
League.
still on Action Comics.
No. That's sorry, did I say Bendis?
Yeah, you
So
said Bendis.
Action Comics is Johnson,
Mhm.
Philip Kennedy Johnson, and Bendis is on Justice League.
Ah.
Now, if you're smart, Justice League right now is not doing great at all,
Mhm.
and that has the Trinity in it. I do believe, or
Yeah.
maybe it doesn't have Wonder Woman.
No,
No,
I
it
thought it
doesn't
was a
because it has
weird ass.
Hippolyta. It has Hippolyta and it has
Yeah.
Black Adam.
Well, I
He's
thought it
trying,
also doesn't have his girl.
yeah,
What's her
Naomi
face?
or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
yeah. But right now, I think I wouldn't say give him. I don't say give him Batman. Give
Mhm.
him a title that needs the help, that needs the numbers.
Yeah.
Because I was just doing some research. We have said some negative things towards Tynan's run of Batman. We
Yeah.
didn't like it.
Yeah.
That thing was selling up to 120,000 copies every
Really?
single month.
Well,
It
recently
it
though?
it was going up and down, but
Yeah.
it reached a peak at 120,000,
Uh-huh. When
and
Joker War or what?
probably.
Yeah.
But there was also a lot of variance with this most recent the Fear State stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, it
Because he
is
was
what it
doing
is.
like 70 something when the numbers for the first time came out.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and that was a couple months back, a few months
yeah.
back.
But like, you need to understand, and you know this as well, but I'm
Uh-huh.
just telling our listeners, Batman sells because Batman.
Yeah.
It doesn't sell because of writers. It sells because it's Batman.
Yeah.
Tom Taylor's books sells because of Tom Taylor.
Mhm.
Like, it has very much been established that that is the reason why people love him so much.
Yeah.
And I think this is why DC kind of went back on their word and signed him exclusively,
Yeah.
because they need him. They
For
need
sure.
him to push because right now he has been killing it on the DC Comics Elseworld stories.
Yeah.
That's his bread and butter. not necessarily working with continuity and just telling a story that he wants to tell, go all balls to the wall, and
Yeah.
he sells books. Marvel, he is kind of doing that right now,
Mhm.
but Marvel isn't really big into that Elseworld type story. It's the what if stories, right?
Yeah.
They don't do a whole lot of graphic novels. DC is really big into graphic novels.
Yeah.
They are willing to tell an Elseworld story, collect it, and then sell that. Marvel doesn't really do that. They just sell their continuity stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so I would say you give Taylor Justice League, or give him something like a Blue Beetle, or something that you want to push. You know,
Mhm.
I feel like, because right now, what was it? I'm trying to think of something that has not really been doing great, but could have potential with it. And unfortunately, right now we're not reading a whole lot of anything,
No,
other than
if it's
Batman
not,
stuff for
yeah, if
the
it's
for the
not Batman, I
podcast.
don't read it. Oh, if it's not Batman, Tom King, yeah.
Exactly. So honestly, you honestly can give Tom Taylor anything that they want to push
Give
via,
him
like,
Wonder Woman. We've mentioned this many times.
yeah,
There
that
is
is true.
not a Wonder Woman story that you think about, like, and it sucks because I haven't read Perez's stuff, so maybe I should if it's so acclaimed.
Yeah.
But there is not a Wonder Woman story like when you say what's the best Superman story? Death of Superman. Everybody goes out there and says that. What's the best Batman story? Hush or Long Halloween or something like that.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, what's the best Wonder Woman story? Everybody's like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
sad. She
Yeah.
should have an iconic story that everybody's like, oh fuck, you know. I feel like people
And
reference her
honestly,
movie more than anything.
I will tell you this: if you go to Marvel and you read Tom Taylor's X-23,
Hmm.
he put Laura on the map for Marvel.
Yeah,
He gave her the Wolverine title,
yeah,
and she has been killing it, like, in every title since he brought her more into the limelight.
yeah,
I say give it to him. Give him Wonder Woman.
yeah,
Wonder Woman has not been selling well, I think, since New 52, which is
yeah. And I was
insane.
actually buying those. I was buying the trades, but
Yeah.
yeah, because I thought it was interesting. I was trying to collect everything back then. But yeah, I have a lot of the Wonder Woman stuff. I thought those stories were okay. Nothing like mind blowing, but it was still cool to watch.
Like, I like his Green Arrow,
Hmm.
but I like his Green Arrow because I get him in, like, small spurts within his miniseries.
Yeah,
And I know that I would collect the shit out of his, like, main run if he ever did Green Arrow.
yeah.
But I do think that, like, you give him something that needs a good push. Wonder Woman definitely
Do
needs it. Justice League
you
needs it.
do you think he stays doing like non continuity stuff, or do you think he is like the new Scott and he's gonna build the world
No,
going
I think they want him for his Elseworld stuff.
forward? Okay.
I think that's part of his contract. It's like, hey, you've helped us a lot with Nightwing, you've helped us a lot with Superman, because both of his titles, Nightwing and Superman,
Hmm.
all of them have gone to fourth or fifth printings
That's
on
dope.
every issue,
Yeah,
which is absolutely insane.
yeah.
So, like, hey, you're doing this for these characters, but we know that you love to do these other stories. So,
I'd like to see him since they're working on the movie do Blue Beetle.
I want to see him do Blue Beetle.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool because I have said that I love Tom Taylor, but he does. No, I don't want to say secondary characters. I'm not reading Superman, so you'd have to vouch for that. But most of the part, like secondary characters and obviously Elseworld stuff, is what he kills. I don't think he writes Batman the best. We've had this discussion literally last week.
Yeah.
Um, but I think he would kill it with the way he writes, and I feel like he doesn't gear tough stuff towards young people, but he does involve like stories that young people need to read. I feel like, so I would love to see what he does with Blue Beetle. And didn't he write Spider Man for a while?
He
Am I wrong?
did.
Yeah,
He wrote
was it good?
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It was very good. Again, it has the Spider-Man tropes. There is
Hmm.
a very, very emotional issue number 6 of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, where he basically gets a child who is like terminally ill,
Hmm.
and Spider-Man basically makes him like a Spider-Man deputy,
Oh,
and
really?
they like uh, they fight like every single villain.
Hmm.
And it's a really cool story. It's a really, really cool story. But that issue 6 is like a one shot.
Yeah.
But but you know, I enjoy Tom Taylor. I know his tropes. I know his style of writing, and so whenever there is a book coming out with him, I know what to expect. So I'm okay with him getting a big enough contract to kind of do whatever the fuck he wants, because I know he can do it well,
Yeah.
and he can sell books doing that.
Yeah. Unlike Scott Snyder, Taylor hasn't wrote something that I'm just disgusted to read. So,
True. Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of The Detective, but I still read it and I was like, it's not bad. I mean, it's
Yeah.
okay. But I haven't like actively hated his stuff the way I did Snyder and Tynan, and which I think they're
And
still great writers, but just not what they were putting out.
I don't expect him to like come up with the next DC event.
Yeah.
I do expect him to be a part of it,
Hmm.
but I don't expect them, because I think right now DC is kind of in a little bit of a funk with like what they are definitively trying to do.
Yeah.
Because I still feel like they're kind of throwing everything at the wall right now.
Hmm.
And like there has been some rumblings and rumors that there may be another quote
Crisis.
unquote crisis event within the next 6 months to a year, to kind of streamline where we are, set in stone as far as continuity. Um, but who knows,
Yeah. Interesting. It's funny that you mentioned Spider Man. Did you see that article that Marissa Tomei said that nobody gives a shit that she's in the Spider Man movies?
That's
Aunt
Aunt
May?
May, right?
Yeah.
So I just watched a video of
Uh-huh.
her, and the interviewer's like, oh, so how'd you get the role? And she's like, I listened to my agents for once. Like with that kind of tone.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, no, 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 like you bring so much like to this character, and you just
Yeah.
made it new. And she's like, yeah.
Yeah.
like
They
like
don't give her shit. Yeah.
she just did not care.
Yeah. Well, and they didn't do anything with her because they didn't do Uncle Ben, like,
No,
either.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
no.
you could have gave her a scene crying about Uncle Ben. And it's another reason why I don't like these Spider-Man movies, because fucking Tony Stark was Daddy Spider-Man in both of the first two movies, and like he overshadowed Spider-Man in my opinion.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, the only thing that she really got to do was at the very end of the first movie. She found out that he was Spider-Man.
yeah. Yeah. Well, Marissa Tomei, you're the only reason why I watched those. So there's that. Because I don't give a shit about the Spider-Man movies. So hot Aunt May for the win. Moving on though, speaking of not movies, but series, we this has been in the ether for a while, but according to Variety, this is an exclusive. Penguin is getting a series on HBO Max.
With Colin Farrell returning to the role.
Yes. So it looks like we're just gonna, and we've talked about this before. It looks like we're just gonna get a Batman universe.
I think so.
Yeah.
And with this Batman universe, I think like the more and more I think about it, the more and more I feel like they are not putting Pattinson in the DCEU.
Yeah.
I think
I
he
don't think
is
so.
just like on his own.
I think it's possible we get the like Barry running through the Speed Force and looks over and sees a clip of Pattinson doing something and
Yeah.
then looks away and that's it. And of course that's gonna make people lose their shit. But
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, he won't be in it.
and unfortunately today people were starting shit, and they're trying to start a rumor that Ben Affleck was offered an HBO Max series for the
Mhm.
Batman. Um and it's just people trying to get the hopes up of everybody
Yeah.
else just to like
Yeah.
shit him down and stuff. Like it's
Everybody's
there's literally been nothing to suggest that
Yeah.
whatsoever.
I feel like everybody that says that kind of shit just works for We Got This Covered. Like everybody that does that. Which is funny. But I did see we could have talked about this last week, or unless it came out, I saw the article the day after or whatever. But apparently, Joe Manganiello has given up um, the just the idea or thought of ever playing Deathstroke in anything.
Oh,
He's like,
really? I did not see that.
yeah, he doesn't think it's ever gonna happen. So
I mean, at this point, I've already said, because uh side tangent, not related to the Batman, but since we're kind of just talking about DCEU,
yeah,
Patty Jenkins has given up a
I saw
director
that.
spot
I
for
saw
the
that.
uh I forget what is the Egyptian movie?
Cleopatra.
Cleopatra. Yeah, sorry. Not Egyptian, I don't think. Uh but she gave up the directing spot.
Mhm.
So she has now given up two directing positions, the Star Wars one and now this one. So people are actually questioning whether she's going to direct Wonder Woman 3 or not.
Yeah. So, well, she didn't give up the Star Wars one, right? They just put it on hold.
No.
Hold.
It's canned. It's like
Because
basically it's creative differences and she doesn't want to deal with it, so she left the
yeah.
project.
So I saw the article that I saw where she's leaving Cleopatra does say that she's leaving to focus on Wonder
Wonder
Woman
Woman.
and the Star Wars one. So that was in the title.
Oh, really?
So yeah. So maybe that writer just didn't know about the Star Wars stuff.
There has been a lot of uh news and rumblings that just like the one thing about Star Wars is
Mhm.
that if you're not willing to play ball, they will get rid of you.
Yeah.
Like because
I feel like
they
that's Disney on anything though, isn't it?
well, yeah, but they especially with Star Wars, they still want to play in the sandbox of like the Skywalker saga. They
Yeah.
don't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
So if you're willing if you're not willing to like stay in that sandbox and if
Mhm.
you try to veer away from it in any way, they're like, "Yeah, we don't need you."
Oh, they want to keep doing the Skywalker shit?
Yeah.
Really? I thought that's what Ryan Johnson was trying to get away from, right?
Yeah, and that's why like there has been newer reports that like oh his name is also in the realm of
Yeah.
directors that are like canned from
So are
Lucasfilm.
they just waiting for like 10 years to try to bring back Poe and all them again?
There Kathleen Kennedy, who is
Mhm.
basically the Kevin Feige of Star Wars,
Yeah.
the executive producer and everything, she recently was in an interview and said that she has very recently had conversation with creatives about bringing back Ray and her friends.
She hasn't done shit in Hollywood since.
Nope.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Because what was she was on like that train movie, and that's it. That
No.
I
So Daisy Ridley was in this movie with Tom Holland where like
wasn't it
they
awful?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was about to say. Like a friend of mine gave it like 0.5 stars out of 10. Out of 10, not out of
Yeah.
5, out of 10. And I was like, "Oh,
Jesus.
fuck."
That's a terrible movie then. Um, yeah, that's pretty crazy. Do you think Patty Jenk? I mean, technically, I was gonna say, do you think she just has a big head after Wonder Woman? But she has a track record of this, though, right?
She does, and I think it's more so like she is not getting with the times and
Yeah,
like she's realizing that more studios are pushing to streaming, are pushing to like direct markets rather
yeah,
than like, hey, cinema is everything type of
yeah.
thing, you know? And I think, honestly, if Patty walks, I think Gal walks.
From Cleopatra.
No, from Wonder Woman. If there was ever a chance that Patty walked away from Wonder Woman, Gal would also walk.
I don't know because I'll believe you if she leaves Cleopatra
But she
because she's
did.
huh?
She
No,
did.
Patty left, not Gal.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
If Gal leaves Cleopatra, then I think your statement there has a lot of weight. Because let's not forget, apparently Red Notice was horrible. And they
it's like
say
the number one movie on Netflix, though.
Netflix says everything's the number one thing on Netflix. They get to make up their little charts.
Well,
So,
there was also a article that was like, "Oh, by the way, the metrics of how Netflix works and everything else is actually Red Notice's first weekend was the equivalent of like $1 billion weekend or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. See, I can't trust Netflix because they tout something like Squid Game. Mr. Beast then destroys Squid Game's numbers by like badrillions, and they won't even work with Mr. Beast. So it's all like, come on, give Mr. Beast some money and imagine the crazy shit he would do because all
Yeah.
his fans probably already have Netflix. And they're
Yeah.
just all like, yeah, let's just watch whatever Mr. Beast is do. Mr. Beast needs to do a game show, like a genuine badass crazy
On
game show.
Netflix would be
Yes,
so cool.
would be insane. I don't understand why they don't do anything like that. Like, I don't know. I don't understand why some people do not do this stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting to see what happens with Patty Jenkins because the gal thing. If it let's just, I forgot what the rule is, but apparently, if in Hollywood you have like 2 or 3 bombs in a row, you're like blacklisted from
Yeah.
Hollywood. And I mean, it's different with streaming nowadays, you know,
Mhm.
because it's hard to say like what's a bomb and what's not anymore.
Yeah.
But if Red Notice is a bomb for Gal, then I nobody's really saying that 1984 was a win. But
Well, no, and the reason why I bring all of that up is to
Mhm,
say that if Wonder Woman 3 happens and or doesn't happen,
mhm.
like I genuinely think we just take the DCEU, throw it in the trash, start over.
Oh yeah. I agree. I agree. If you lose Gal, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
She should be your face. If anything, they should have pivoted and been like, all right, Wonder Woman's our number one now that Ben's gone, and we're stupid and not paying Cavill. But yeah, I mean, I've said it on this podcast for a long time already. I'm ready for a reboot. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit, and I want actors that you're like, dude, you're signed on for like the top 3, like Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman. You signed them to minimum 5 picture deals, minimum.
See, and that's interesting you say that because recently Marvel in the MCU,
Mhm.
Disney has basically said, "Hey, we're no longer making those deals."
Really?
Yeah, they're only staying to like, "Hey, you're doing 2 movies and 2 appearances."
Yeah.
So like a total of technically 4 movies and or
Yeah.
shows.
Hmm.
So that way they don't get into huge debacles with money like the thing that happened with ScarJo.
Yeah. Granted, she deserved that money though.
Yeah.
She was like, she's the only thing I remember from Iron Man 2. Genuinely. Like, I remember going to see that in theaters and just being amazed at Scarlett Johansson and be like, wow, I love this girl. But we'll see what happens. Wonder Woman 3 with the rumors that Jason Momoa is supposed to be in it, and it's gonna be like Amazons versus Atlanteans, maybe. That
And you
sounds pretty
even
fire.
said that there may be like the first appearance of Blue Beetle in there.
Possibly, that's what I've read. This is coming from fuck.
Collider?
No, fuck Collider. Fuck, it's
Oh, hashtag
hashtag
show.
yes, and they've been hit or miss sometimes, but
Yeah.
more often than not, they're usually hits.
Yeah.
So they have a better track record than other places. So yeah, they did say grain of salt because it's an early script, and those can always change.
Yeah.
Look at the Flash movie. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to see what happens with all that going forward. But I don't know, man. I mean, it'll be interesting to see because I would love to see that. Did you hear? I think I might have saw a TikTok, and obviously I put TikToks with a grain of salt. I don't put too much investment in them. But did you see that apparently Jason Momoa is tired of Amber Heard's shit?
So I know that he like because she was telling stories of when they first filmed the first Aquaman.
Uh-huh.
She is like apparently very uh type A.
Yeah.
And so she's like, "Hey, I'm focused on this. I'm doing this. This is how my schedule is, blah, blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah." And like she would read books on
Yeah.
set and like Momo would apparently like grab them and like tear them.
Yeah, he's like apparently like a crazy like I don't want to say he's a frat boy, but he's that kind of bro dude.
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, woo, and he's like, fucking, fuck your book, like let's go do this, rock climb. But like, yeah, apparently he was pushing to get what's her face from Game of Thrones as well.
Hmm.
So that's what the TikTok says. I'm not putting any interest into it because I know
Well,
that.
the only things I ever see about Amber Heard on TikTok is people like sharing a freaking article from like We Got This Covered or The
Yeah.
Sun that
Uh-huh.
says Amber Heard has now been arrested, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're like, finally, and it's like,
yeah,
you guys know that's like from 2 years ago,
yeah,
and like shit hasn't
yeah,
happened, and since then there has been behind the scenes footage of Amber on the set
yeah.
of the new Aquaman movie,
What
like,
I've seen a lot of is everybody showing, like, old Johnny Depp interviews of, like, when he was going through all the drama and
oh
showing
yeah,
the, like, anguish on his face, and he's just all like, because there was I forgot what movie he was promoting, but somebody was like, "What happened to your hand?" And he was like, "Oh, I did something, something," and it was when the bottle got thrown at him and Amber Heard cut his fucking hand off or whatever.
yeah.
So, like, I was just like, "God damn." Like, it's like, internet detectives that go that hard into shit are insane. Like, it's crazy. Like, I used to do that for Gotham and stuff, but man, people go the extra mile. Anyways, moving on to Batgirl, another HBO show or movie that I should say is happening. The directors did something really cool for Brendan Fraser's first day on set because it just so happened to be his birthday. So they were filming on what looked like a very grimy apartment building, possibly in Gotham, something like that.
I took it as also probably burnt.
I It looked just like he couldn't afford shit is what
Okay,
it looked like.
okay.
It looked like a rundown, like, hey, this is $20 a night and you can live here kind of place.
Yeah.
And it fits Gotham because like he probably lives in the Narrows or some shit like that. So it looked Brendan Fraser just he was wearing it looked like something you would wear to weld and shit like that, which was
Yeah, it looked
interesting.
like some sort of like, apron
Yeah, yeah,
with long
like a
sleeves
shop
underneath.
apron and stuff.
Yeah.
And the director was like, "Yeah, so during directing, we like to, record stuff." And he was like, "Huh?" And they're like, "Happy birthday." He's like, "Ah, fuck." He's like, "Come on." And then they're like, "Ah, yeah, you know." And
And
it's
he's
funny.
very humble, and he's very,
Yeah,
like, shy and squeamish kinda
for
thing,
sure.
and then eventually he's just like, "Get back to fucking work," you know?
So it was nice. It did seem like, yeah, he was pretty humbled by it. But if it's his first day on set and they're like, "We love you, man," like that's cool. Like that's just I anything nice with Brendan Fraser, I just want to see it. Like,
Yeah.
I just want him to get all the W's that he can.
Yeah, I think it was recently, in an interview right after he got the role for Martin Scorsese's next film.
Hmm.
Uh, he was doing an interview, and the interviewee was like, "Oh yeah, did you see all of this stuff?" And they were basically hyping him up through the fans, like, "Oh
Yeah,
yeah, all your fans love you," blah blah. And he got like super emotional about it.
yeah,
And we've said it before, he's kind of had a little bit of a dark past with Hollywood,
hmm,
unfortunately. And like, to see him being so successful now
yeah,
after all of that, I think it's really cool and it's really good. And I really do hope the best for him in the future of all of his projects. But I'm really excited to see what he does with the Firefly character.
yeah. Telling you, Mummy and The Rock restart it. Brendan Fraser, Mummy, the Scorpion King Rock, buddy cop comedy. There you go.
Oh,
It'll make
God.
money. They're going through fucking Egypt and shit trying to solve mysteries together. But yeah, so that's all the entertainment news for that. Besides, this was surprising when Clay sent this to me, but apparently the greatest, one of the greatest sources of Batman material is getting a spin-off in an audio drama. So Batman the Animated Series is having the original cast come back to do audio drama episodes. This has me very intrigued.
Yes. So this will not be like the audio drama that HBO Max attempted to put on to their streaming service, because I
So
don't
weird.
I don't go to HBO Max to listen to things. I go to HBO Max to watch things.
Yeah.
DC has an exclusive contract with Spotify. They need to
Yeah.
be using it. This is what they will be using it for.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about this. Of course, we all know I am going to audio engineering school to do this exact thing. So I'm super excited about this. Kevin Conroy has already shown pictures of him doing recordings. He's already back to work. He's getting starting
Nice.
at it now. But John Glover, um, shoot, what's her name? Who played Catwoman, Poison Ivy, like all of the original cast is coming back.
Are they bringing Tara Strong on for Harley?
I didn't see her name
Oh,
as far as
because
that.
Sorkin is retired. So
Yes, she is. I would assume so. I
mm,
mean, Tara and Kevin have worked together on
yeah,
so many projects after the fact, after Batman, the animated series. So I wouldn't see why not.
yeah,
But even John Glover, the Riddler, was super excited about this news. He's already
yeah,
talked about it a little bit. Um, I'm super excited about it. Of course, RIP to the original voice actor for Alfred. Of course, he won't be there.
yeah. That
And I
really sucks.
believe the original voice actor for James Gordon also is.
Mm.
Did he
I
pass away
don't
also?
know. Well, I think somebody passed away this year that was part of the animated series,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken. But we'd have to go back and look. Yeah, I'm excited for that. You want to know what? You have Spotify, right?
Yes.
I got that Spotify end of year review thing or
Rap or
whatever
whatever.
that
Yeah.
showed, yeah, that showed all my stuff. My my most listened to podcast was that fucking Batman thing, only for those first 2 episodes.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, because apparently I don't listen to podcasts. So,
Well, that's the thing though. I don't use Spotify for podcasts. I use Spotify for music,
yeah.
and I rarely listen to music. I
Yeah.
only listen to
Oh,
podcasts.
really?
And so when I did my like end of the year wrap for Spotify,
Mhm.
it was like it you're gonna laugh, but basically it was like a freaking 99.5 like playlist that was
Yeah.
basically on repeat. And I was just
Yeah,
like,
all
oh
the rock
God.
songs and shit. It's funny, I drove a different car today when I went to go meet my brother for his birthday, and, my Bluetooth wasn't hooked up to this one, so I listened to 99.5 Kiss for the first time in so long, and it's the same songs, bro. Godsmack, Seether, fucking Tool, like, it's the same bands I listened to 15 years
Oh
ago.
my God, that's so
It's so
good.
hilarious. Um, but yeah, my rap is essentially not listenable because my friend Nickel, who made like instrumental music for DMC Free 8 like copy stuff, so I can play on
Yeah.
stream. Uh, that's all my music. That was like my
Nice.
number one for everything because I use him every time I stream.
Yeah.
And so like it was just like on repeat, and I was just like, well, I hope this does something for you, bro, because like you're number one on all my lists.
Well, like
So
I honestly like because I don't listen to music that much, I've been trying to listen to like newer stuff.
yeah.
Like newer artists are not that great. I'm sorry.
Dude,
I
I do play the
I
classics
listen
a lot.
I listen to of course Taylor Swift
Yeah.
and the newer girl Olivia Rodrigo.
See, I
And
haven't
that's
listened to her, but everybody talks about her all the time.
she's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear her. Obviously I haven't listened to all of Adele's new shit, but like I'll listen to anything that sounds good. My thing is lately I've been listening to like a lot of lo-fi and hi-fi. Like
Yeah.
that's what I use because I just like to have something on in the background.
Oh,
So yeah.
I learned that Paramore is Haley Williams is coming back with a heavy rock
Really?
album. Yeah, well,
That's
like
weird.
of course she had the like emo music back in the day, then she
Mhm.
went to like pop music and then she kind of retired for a little bit. Apparently she's coming back with like rock music. And
Yeah.
so I've kind of been like hyping myself up with Paramore recently. And I'm like,
Huh.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I haven't listened to any. I mean, I have like a playlist of like my stuff I listened to in high school, which has
Mhm.
Paramore and all those bands. But yeah, it's been a while. I just thought it was so interesting that like, okay, so I do listen to podcasts, but I'm more of a video podcast person.
Yeah.
So all my podcasts are from YouTube. Like I'm watching Trash Taste podcast and the Wrestle Talk podcast because I don't watch wrestling, but I watch these guys talk about wrestling,
Yeah.
so I don't have to waste 3 hours every Monday night watching a shit product. So I just listen to these guys shit on it, like we shit on Batman. So I'm just like, yeah, all right, other people like us, cool. But for the most part, that is all the entertainment news. Now I gotta say this: we didn't have a question this week. All right, Clay.
No, we did not. I actually looked
Tisk
at
tisk tisk.
the YouTube. It says there's one comment, but I
Yeah, I
can't
think
look
that's
at it.
me, but it's not showing for some reason. I
Yeah, it's
noticed
not
that.
showing.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on there, but if you did leave a comment and you are and that isn't me and that is you, then leave it again on the next video. Now, I will say this video did get put out a little later. That's on me, but still, it was out on the weekend. And we are recording this podcast a day early. I unfortunately have some things I need to take care of tomorrow and will not be able to record on our normal day. But yeah, so just to reiterate, if you guys want to leave a question for this podcast so we can answer them every week, go to the Batman News Weekly YouTube channel, leave a comment in the comment section of the latest video, and we will more than likely, I'm talking about like 99.9% chance that we will answer your question. So go leave it in the comment section. Also hit that subscribe button. But yeah, so now we can just move straight on to comic books because we have finally Batman 118, we have Batman 89, and we have what is it called? Knights of Steel?
Dark Knights of Steel
Dark
number
Knights of
2.
Steel number 2.
Where do
Let's
you want to
start
go
off with-
first?
I enjoyed all of these. So,
I did too.
yeah. So let's talk about 89.
Okay.
So this was interesting. So to recap, because I feel like it's been a long time since we've read 89.
It's been a while.
So on the last one, we had, man, I'm trying to think. It was revealed that Two-Face, he was dreaming, right? He came out of a dream because he thought he was the hero and he was like, I want the presidency or whatever,
Yeah.
the mayorship and all that jazz. And that was half the comic. And then he realized he woke up and half of his face was burnt by the battery acid.
And we were talking about how it was very interesting how like his other persona is like very meta in the sense of like talking about the multiverse.
Yeah.
And how like, oh, in this life, you never lived a life because you were hit by a car.
Yeah.
Oh, this life, remember that when you were hanging out with your cousin? Well, you got blamed for it and you got arrested and you had a horrible life after that. And like, we thought it was very interesting how they're kind of playing with that in an 89 universe, talking about the multiverse.
For sure.
We were questioning on how they were going to reveal the Two-Face.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the reveal here?
So I actually just read this, and was it the bathroom scene? He's like ripping his face off.
So he ends up like at night he escapes his room.
Oh yes,
and he rips off the thing, and he's looking at the reflection of the window.
Yeah.
In the hospital, and all you see, you don't even see his normal face. All you see is the blue messed up face, and you hear Two-Face like talking to him.
Yeah. I remember that. I was reading this very quickly before we started, so I didn't get to really review the panels. But yeah, no, I like the design. I actually kind of really like it. It's if you've seen, what is it, Batman, which is the one with Forever. It's like that blue and crazy like spiky hair, like Bozo the Clown hair. It feels like. But I enjoy it. I think like I love that it's the animated series blue.
Yeah, instead of the red and like grossness of Tommy Lee Jones, it's the blue. I really dig that as well. I think it complements the style of the book.
Yeah.
So I really dug it. I like Drake and how he is kind of taking it upon himself to like, because in the beginning it opens up with him kind of like being Robin, messing with the police, and not necessarily in like a bad way, but he sees that there's a situation being escalated by the police, and he's like, you know what, fuck you guys, and he like throws a ball of paint onto the police. He throws spray cans to all of the citizens, and essentially helps kind of start an event.
Weird. Yeah,
but he uses it as like a way to be like, hey, this is my town, or this is my city, get out of it, kind of situation. Because I mean, he doesn't have the he doesn't have the gadgets and the intimidation of that of a Batman, so he has to be kind of creative.
How did you feel though about him essentially doing a Molotov cocktail towards the cops?
So again, like I said, he kind of has to be clever in his intimidation.
Yeah.
Is it dangerous? Yes, 100%. Could it have gone so wrong? Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. But I also think if this book continues, because I still think that this could very much still be like a season 1,
Hmm.
and then they do a season 2, and if it continues to sell, you keep going, you keep going.
Yeah.
But I think if this does continue, because this also shows the first interactions between Drake and Bruce,
Yeah.
and them coming to terms with the fact that, like, hey, like, Drake is basically trying to convince Bruce, just tell me you're Batman because I already know. Like, he's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
saying, like, hey, I'm gonna prove that I know you're Batman.
Yeah. He does
And
it in a very what is it?
yeah, very
Deceiving way.
deceiving way.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And I think that this relationship is going to eventually become that of like Bruce seeing the way that Drake is going about being Robin and
Yeah.
saying, hey, I like the way you're thinking, but you're going about it the wrong way. And then
Yeah.
he kind of drives him to be a better vigilante.
Yeah. I will say I kind of like this approach of how he found out that he's Batman because he actually saw him. Like he's a
Hmm.
smart kid, right? We know that the original origin story of Drake was he was so smart he found out Batman's patterns and all this kind of jazz. Like he knew what was happening, and so he was able to deduce it, right? Um, we've talked about this on this podcast before. I've kind of had an issue with that in the past, just because like fucking telling me he's the only person that's ever been able to do that. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
I've
Yeah.
had an issue with that. But I kind of like this because he saw him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And now he's like, I'm going to get you to admit it because I fucking know. And so I like that. I will say the shit he did in this was very questionable. Very questionable because, like, police brutality against people of color is so real right now in our current world that I feel like people are dying. If this happens in America, people
People
are
are
dying
dying.
in that
Yeah.
crowd.
Yeah.
100%. And yeah, so I was just like, that's so dangerous. But it's Gotham, and I'm like, all right, he's trying to defend his neighborhood. I understand it. But how did you feel about Bullock being like he seems like a villain?
He does seem like a villain. This is kind of like the amalgam of Batman the Animated Series and then the dirty cop in Batman Begins.
Yeah.
It's like the amalgam of those two.
Yeah.
And like you hear Commissioner Gordon like try to talk to him and like, don't do this, this such and such is going on right now and you're just antagonizing them, like just you're not helping the situation
Yeah.
whatsoever. And he's just like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you, what was that, blah.
Yeah.
And then he's like ordering people to like freaking push people and then fire and all sorts of stuff. So i I think Batman or Robin Drake will put him in his place.
Yeah, I feel like that because he was kind of an asshole in the animated series, but he
Hmm.
just didn't like vigilantes.
Yeah.
This seems like he's trying to incite a riot against
Hmm.
people that are protesting.
And there has been a very big push in main continuity, but like it's been here in this series since the issue 1, kind of just dealing with the stuff that we've had to deal with. I mean, it's always been there, but of course the amplification of 2020's, just shit show
Yeah,
of
yeah,
everything that's been going on.
yeah. It's kind of sad that this has had more impact with talking about social issues than all of I Am Batman,
Yep.
or I should say, fucking what's his face, Jice Batman, because
Yeah.
it's more than I Am Batman.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it should have been done this way because you're getting a good story, but you're still seeing that type of fucking awareness and like talking about today's issues.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say this is a good way to do it. Love the imagery at the end where Two Face ends up breaking out of the hospital. He beats the shit out of some people and stuff like that. So Barbara Gordon, which that's still kind of weird for me that Barbara Gordon is dating Two Face and all this kind of weird stuff. um she's like, they're like, hey, Harvey broke out, we need to find him or whatever, and Two-Face is talking to himself, and he's all like, "Oh, we got to find a place to lay low or whatever." And he goes down to this old Burnside subway that they used to throw parties in back when he was younger or whatever. And you see a nice side of Burnside and a dead side of Burnside in this subway tunnel. I
Yeah.
love that imagery. Thought that was kind of cool. I love that the Burnside sign is broken and it just says "burn" on the Harvey burnt face side,
Yeah.
which I thought that was kind of cool. And then we have the last couple pages are Batman showing Drake the Batcave and showing because he wanted to see the car. He was like, "Hey,
Well,
I
like the
want to see
one
the
thing that we didn't really share is the fact that like the way Drake proved that he was
car." Oh yeah,
Batman was like he got invited to Bruce Wayne's mansion
yeah,
because he kind of hinted at the fact that he did know he was Batman over a
mhm,
phone call. So he was like Alfred invite him over. And so Drake was kind of just talking to him and all of a sudden he pulls out this vial and Bruce is like, "What's that?" He's like, "Oh, this is acid. The same kind of acid that was put onto
Harvey.
Harvey's face," and he like he unplugs the vial and throws it
Yeah,
but before he could throw it, freaking Bruce threw a pillow at him and tackled
yeah,
him, and like they get into like a little bit of a tussle. He throws a fucking chair at Drake and shit. I'm like, dude, this
yeah,
is a kid. Holy fuck.
yeah,
And then finally he just throws the vial on Bruce and it hits his cheek. He's like, "Oh, that was just water.
yeah,
Thanks for showing me the other side of you,"
yeah,
basically. And then he's like, "Ah, crap."
yeah,
And so he takes him down to the Bat Cave and he's like, "Oh, this is just my dungeon where I'm gonna trap you for years to come. But
yeah,
the food will be good." And
yeah,
Drake's like, "Have you ever considered being normal? You know?"
yeah. So it gets boring. Um, I will say it's funny that you mentioned that, like, yeah, this is a kid. When I read it, I don't feel like Drake's a kid.
He is
Yeah,
mature for
yeah,
sure. But I do think he is still like he's much younger than
teenagers.
Bruce is, you
Yeah,
know. I would still consider him probably
late teens. That's how I see
late teens,
him. Early.
maybe like breaking 20, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No more than that. But he doesn't seem like he's like 13 or 14.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
not at all. But yeah, it's very interesting. I kind of like how he was like, "Oh, I see this new one, the motorcycle that'll probably be the Robin cycle,"
Hmm.
which is kind of cool. And I love, like, I kind of love his confidence
Yeah.
because he was all like, "Yeah, shit's about to hit the fan, and I'm gonna need a helper."
Yeah,
Like,
it's
you
more
know?
about like, hey, this is my city, and
Yeah,
like, because another thing was that like he did kind of hint at the fact that like, oh, remember, when you were getting shot at by all those cops and you got knocked down? Yeah, that was me. Kind of like
yeah,
this is my city type of thing. We did get a small glimpse of Selena Kyle.
yep,
She is playing the part of like a secretary or some sort of like computer analyst type person. She's in Gotham PD. I don't know exactly what she's attempting to do,
yeah.
but this is of course some sort of coup. She's going to try to do
Well, I
something.
mean, she
So
was a secretary, right? So I guess police stations need secretaries.
true.
Because they were saying, because Barbara mentioned something like, "Oh, you can upload your file or whatever,"
Yeah.
like, and she was like happy to, because she's probably gonna hack it or whatever. But
Yeah.
overall, 89 has been solid. I
Yep.
could see if it continues like this, I could see myself buying the trade, you
Yeah.
know, because it's art's good, story's been good. And it was weird at the start for me to just read something that I've watched.
Yeah.
That's always kind of weird. Like, did you ever read any of those Arrow or Flash comics from the show? Those are always
I
weird.
I think I attempted to read one and I felt
Mhm,
like this is a little weird.
mhm.
Um a friend of mine recently was talking about how back in the day they made it very adamantly to like get comic book adaptations of movies.
Yeah,
So Batman 89 has a comic.
yeah,
Um Superman had a comic. The Mask had a comic.
yeah,
Like The Mask is based off a comic, but they made a movie adaptation of the comic
yeah.
of
They
a
always do
comic.
that. Yeah,
Uh so like this is several years removed,
for
you
sure.
know? So it is a little weird to think of that movie and then be like, "Oh, this is the continuation."
Yeah.
You know?
The Catwoman suit's the only issue I have. I don't understand the purple legs. I just don't. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Everything else is fine. But anyways, since we are entering a new era of Batman, let's do that last. So let's move
Okay.
on to Dark Knights of Steel, which I do want to say this, loved this issue, but it what happened at the end of issue 1 with Superman Batman, I feel like didn't need to happen at all. Agree? Disagree? With what
In
happened into
in
this.
the context of this issue,
Yeah.
no, it did not. But I think that Tom Taylor does it because we're just gonna say it. No one in the royal family
Mhm.
notices and or finds out that Bruce
Yeah.
is part Kryptonian.
Yeah.
This is a seed that Tom Taylor has planted to play along with later on.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
for
think
sure,
that
for sure. I just feel like everything Bruce did in this issue, he would have done if he was a human still.
yes.
So, but anyways, let's go on to that. So, as we just stated in the last issue, it ended with Jor-El getting shot in the face with an arrow and dying in Bruce's arms, and that's the infamous he's Superman. He's got Superman-like powers, Kryptonian powers. That starts off the first page here with that death scene. We see the red laser eyes from Bruce, and then he yells and he shoots the beams into the sky, and everybody's like, "What the?" Like Harley's like, "What the hell?" And the mother's is like a scream that makes Clark be like, "What the fuck's going on?" They all run out there, and we see Bruce with his helmet on and like ready to just like fight. Of course, the L's are like grieving their fallen father, and we have this badass shot of Bruce jumping off the castle with just classic Batman with Alfred already downstairs with some fucking horses. Like
Yeah.
that was gangster. They ride off into the forest because Bruce was like, the arrow came from the Hobbs forest, and Alfred is like, is it the Green Man? And this was badass. When an arrow shoots straight for Alfred, who is not looking, and Bruce catches it right in front of his face. And then he's like, I see you. And fucking Green Arrow's like, the fuck? And Bruce jumps off his horse. Insane. And slices his arm off.
This is fucking badass. And a callback to Dark Knight Returns.
Yes. Yes. I
Because
completely
Green
yeah,
Arrow,
doesn't have
Oliver only has one arm
yeah. Yeah,
in
he does
that
the
book.
classic feet bow technique to
Yeah.
knock out Clark. So yeah, this was interesting here. It looks like Bruce is about to kill him, and then Alfred holds his arm, and he's like, "No, Bruce," and he's like, "Don't worry, Alfred. Like I won't kill because I can't get answers from a dead man." And I'm just like, "God damn, all right."
That was a really good line. I was like,
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah. So that was gangster, but still feel like that's something Bruce would have said either way.
Yeah.
And then we go to the Kingdom of Storms, which I think this is kind of cool. So we see Constantine, which I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of fucking weird that he's wearing like what he would normally wear.
I thought of that as well.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like a coat.
Yes. I think they're trying to
Now,
pass it off as like one of those capey things they used to wear that you would tie,
yeah.
but it looks like a fucking leather jacket.
It like he looks like he still has like a dress shirt and a
Mhm.
tie. It looks too meta
Yeah.
for what we're dealing with in the times that we're dealing with.
Yeah, he could have looked a little bit more like a wizard,
Yeah.
you know? Uh,
But they are still refusing to show us who this green man is.
yeah. Do you think it's obviously Green Lantern or is it like Martian Manhunter?
See, we saw the ring though
Oh
last
yeah, no
issue,
shit.
didn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Oh, they make the joke about jewelry too.
we know that it's something of a Green Lantern,
Yeah.
but to what extent? Like, why is it so? Like, why is it going to shock me when I finally see this person?
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be someone we wouldn't expect? Like it's not going to be Hal?
I don't think it's going to be the original four.
Yeah. I
That
hope
being
not. Do you think it'll be Sinestro?
Oh, that would be weird.
Yeah, and he was originally a Green Lantern, right?
He was originally a Green Lantern. I mean,
I
that
don't want
means
it to
that
be Hal just because we have him in that vampire story.
yeah.
So I really don't want it to be Hal.
I
Guy
do you think
Gardner would
it
be too stupid.
do you think it could be Jessica?
I would love it to be Jessica because I want more Jessica in my life. But I don't think it will.
She has like since like basically disappeared from DC
The
Comics.
last thing I heard was when she died and instantly came back the next issue.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I remember of her. But she's supposed to be in the fucking series. But if that's gonna be a shit show, that's gonna suck.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, in the HBO Max series.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. You think it could be what's his face? Kyle?
I'm hoping for either Kyle, Jessica, and I want to say Abin Sur, which is the original Green Lantern that
Yeah,
gave Hal Jordan the power. But I feel like that might be one of the obvious ones too.
yeah. Kilowog is, I think, too cartoony. I've
Hmm.
always loved Kilowog. Um, but what is the stupid Green Lantern that they have? Isn't there like a ball or an orb that's a lantern?
Yeah, he's like really he's around like he is
Yeah,
basically just a head,
yeah, yeah,
um, and with arms and legs.
yeah,
There's also a squirrel. There's a volcano head. Um, there's a there's a shit ton of Green
yeah, yeah,
Lanterns that
yeah.
are just
Which is,
wacky.
I just they they can't fuck up that show, man, and they're going to. Like they're going to fuck up that show. Anyways, going back to this comic book. So we're seeing Black Adam and all his kids. I didn't know he had a
No,
son.
Black Lightning, not
Black
Black Adam.
Lightning. I always
Yeah.
forget. Black Lightning. He had a son. Has he always had a son?
I don't think so because
Okay.
I don't remember seeing a son anywhere in the comics
He's
whatsoever.
not in the show either, right?
No.
I know about the two daughters.
Yeah.
But so we're seeing them all kind of doing their own thing, and the daughters are badasses, and the son is all like, "Yeah, stand back, dad," and he just fucking lets it rain.
And he makes it rain. So I think this is really cool because one
Uh,
of the daughters does thunder,
yeah,
one of the daughters does lightning, and then he does
yeah,
rain. So all together they can make the perfect
trifecta.
storm,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Yeah. Well, wait. It's weird that one of them does lightning, but he is also lightning.
Who?
Can, Black Lightning.
Jefferson? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Can he create storms though?
No. I
So
mean, like if I think at one point what he did, like he did a whole bunch of like science stuff with
yeah.
like who was it? Firestorm
Uh-huh.
and Flash.
Yeah.
Like they worked together and they made like basically a
Yeah.
storm.
Hmm.
But I don't think he can do that on his own.
Yeah. So I like how Constantine kind of just like shits on him because he was like, "Yeah, thanks for making it rain." Because like it's water, ooh.
Yeah,
But
basically.
technically, Jumanji, we know from Jumanji, a lot of water can kill you. All right.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So we know that. And Constantine is all like, "Hey, we need to have a conversation without little ears." And he's like, "My ears aren't that little; they're normal size." And so like every time I meet a kid like that for the first time as a new character, I always hate him. I don't know why. Like I instantly do.
Well, he's not that much of a
Yes.
problem anymore.
Which we'll get to. So we do hear like this is when Constantine tells him like it's been done, like Jor-El's dead.
Yeah.
And this whole conversation essentially is just us learning that Jefferson has had an issue with the elves because they're realizing that a lot of magic people in the El Kingdom are disappearing.
Yeah.
So he thinks that, they know that they're a threat to the elves, so the elves are doing something about it. We do find out later that it seems like they're not killing them, but they are capturing them for no reason. So they have this discussion here, and page turn, Amanda Waller works
Mhm.
for the elves. I thought this was really interesting, and she was talking about going to war.
Mhm.
And everybody's like, no, 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 we shouldn't go to war. Love Harley here. Harley is the shining light of this series so far.
It's so weird. She is like the voice of reason.
Yeah. And I wonder if she's going to be a big player later on. Like, because if she's the voice of reason and we find out she's been like behind a lot of this stuff, to like,
I could see her being the one to give like intel to
yeah,
the Jefferson family.
yeah. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens. But I don't know why. I just love the idea of Harley actually being a jester
Hmm.
for real.
Yeah,
And like it works. And we see like Kal-El obviously super pissed because he just lost his father. Obviously, good reason to be mad. We see it, everybody's trying to talk. Kal-El essentially, because he doesn't know what happened, takes
yeah.
a shot at Bruce,
He's like,
essentially.
he's like, who the fuck cares what Bruce has to say? This
Yeah.
is a family affair, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. So Bruce is all like, "If you only knew, my guy," and but he still stays humbled, and he's
Yeah,
just all like, "You know what? Let them do whatever." And he's like, "I want proof." And so they captured Green Arrow, so he's down in the dungeons. So Kal-El wants to go see him. He's like, "I want to go talk to this fucking traitor." So page turn, and we go. Alfred's all like, "Other people are gonna get caught in this crossfires." You know what I mean? Like it's war. I think it's Alfred that says that.
yeah.
And it cuts to Amazon Island. I don't know if you feel about this, but Amazon Island, it should just be called Themyscira. Because when I hear Amazon now, I think of the fucking company. So like I was like Amazon Island, and then there's all these buildings here. I was like, God damn, they took over everything.
Amazon
Uh,
Prime.
yeah, yeah, fucking prime. So we see that somebody has arrived to the shores of Amazon Island. Hippolyta is there to greet them. We find out that this person is Lois. Very
And
interesting.
it's interesting because she is like a messenger,
Yeah,
but she also plays like a detective because she's doing like reportive work, and
yeah,
I'm just like, it's a little weird.
yeah. Well, Bendis wrote that amazing series where she's one of the
Well,
greatest
well, no,
detectives.
it's just it feels weird because of the time that we're in.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that you want to play off of like their roles and continuity and like
Hmm.
spin it for this Elseworld.
Yeah.
Like having her as a messenger, I think would be cool within itself. But
Yeah.
like for the fact that there's where is it? There's one moment when she's talking to, I think, Wonder Woman, and
Hmm.
she's like, uh, I haven't confirmed, but he's the obvious suspect. If he was, I will. Uh, let's see here. Where
Yeah.
does it say? Or she's talking about the prophecies and all of that. It sounds like she's doing reportive work,
Yeah.
like as a detective and as a journalist. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
uh, what's the equivalent to a journalist in those times? Like, what would
Yeah.
it be?
Well,
Like,
they had like scholars and bookkeepers that kept up with all that kind of stuff. Like, if you watch Game of Thrones, you would assume she's one of those kind of people.
yeah,
So there are people that are messengers that kind of deal with all this kind of shit. So yeah, it is kind of weird. I totally get it, but it didn't bother me because I was like, all right, she seems more of a messenger than anything. So that was the news.
hmm,
And being a messenger, you learn about everything and anything and everything that's going on between the kingdoms, right? So
yeah,
you would have the most information. So I thought that was interesting. So she tells Hippolyta about, the death of Jor-El, and she is all like, I love the bait and switch that happened here. Like, I really love what happened. Because she goes out and she's like, the princess is out in the fields. And we see like Wonder Woman training, like of course, badass Wonder Woman, and she gets the news of Jor-El's death, and page turn, and it's Jor-El, your father has been killed. And I'm like, and it's Supergirl. And I
it's
was like,
Supergirl, but her name isn't even the correct name. It's not Kara,
yeah,
it's
Zala.
Zala.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who the fuck is this?
Yeah. So,
And I'm just super interested.
mhm.
I've never heard the name before. I kind of want to do some research to see if Zala is an actual character.
Do you think that Thomas Wayne fucked the wife of Jor-El, and this is a Wayne?
So I don't think so. I literally typed in her name and somebody has already created a DC database.
Of course.
It's Zala Jarrell, Dark Knights of Steel. This is her first appearance.
Hmm. So, I mean,
Um
but she could still be Thomas, like a Wayne, though, like in all the deceiving stuff. You know what I mean?
Now it says right here, because it is her first appearance, people are just assuming, but uh race Kryptonian. I
Hmm.
think she is full Kryptonian.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because of what happens at the end
Yeah.
of the
True.
book.
True. I wouldn't mind if there's going to be some deception here, but I don't think they'll do the double turn with that. But it would be interesting because you could be raised Kryptonian, and she could have just been known. She could have been raised to use her powers, whereas Bruce was hidden from knowing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyways, so turns out that she's just like, I have to go, and she's telling this to Wonder Woman. They share a kiss. So thank you, Tom Taylor, for actually bringing out the bisexual thing or the lesbian thing of Wonder Woman, which nobody has touched in
Mm-mm.
so long, but was made very clear a long time ago. I think Greg Rucka's run was when they
Yeah,
made it.
I think the last person to do it was actually Grant Morrison in the
Mhm.
Wonder Woman Earth 1 story, but,
I didn't know that.
it was all implied and never
Yeah,
shown.
yeah.
Like, it was basic, like, heavy sexual tension of, like,
Hmm.
"Hey, you're a woman, you wanna get down?" Like, basically
Yeah,
that kinda stuff,
yeah.
but never actually shown.
So then Wonder Woman, this is where she talks to Lois and asks like, "Who is it? Is it Pierce?" and all that jazz. And you know, this was interesting where Wonder Woman was like a war against gods. So is she not on Jor-El's side?
I I'm interested to see how the houses
Yeah.
have all been playing their part.
Hmm.
Like, I can very much see Amazon Island still being that kind of island that's just like fuck men.
Yeah.
And like, I don't care if you're doing good to the world or bad to the world, you're just a man
Yeah.
and you were therefore evil. Um, but I am interested to see, because of course we see the trope of that of a new 52 where Wonder Woman and Superman were together.
Yeah.
And are there going to be similarities of like, oh, because I am dating and or married or have some sort of relationship with a princess, that being Zala,
Yeah.
like, is she just playing nice with the L family because of that
Yeah.
or not,
I would love for, because as we see later on in this book, Zala has no problem being evil or doing evilest things, unlike her brother who wants to be pure and not kill people. Um, I would love, because I don't know how Game of Thrones this is gonna get, but I want Taylor to go balls to the wall with this. Like, I want betrayal. I want like fucking infidelity. Like, I want fucking everything gangster from those old things. Like, so I would love if we are gonna have brother versus sister with bastard brother on the side over here. I would love for Wonder Woman to be in a love triangle between all three. Because if she's never met a man before and she sees either Bruce or Kal-El and she falls for one of them, and Zala's like, "You're supposed to be in love with me," and then there's like this torn, like, fighting for the love of Wonder Woman, or she has to pick sides, and that becomes a bigger betrayal. Like, I want this shit to get like intense because like this is I the one thing is I hate when I leave a story and I'm like, you could have done so much more. That's what I always hate. But when you tell me, when I come out of a story and I'm just like, I don't know how that could have been better, always memorable.
hmm
But Tom Taylor has got me back on the train. I wasn't liking that first issue, so I'm on the
Yeah.
train again. But this could still go south at any moment.
So here's a question for you. You said it could go south at any moment. If they decide to move forward in the same way that they did Deceased, so there's going to be one, if not two more 6-issue miniseries,
Yeah.
as well as 2 other 3-issue miniseries to kind of make this universe more whole,
Yeah.
would you think that's too much or not?
I think it's very easy to get burnt out on it because we did
Mhm.
with, Dead Planet and
Deceased.
all that
Yeah.
jazz. Um, but if they don't reference the other areas that much, I don't think it would be that bad. Because like Game of Thrones, like you had all of these houses like going against each other, but there was always this off in the distance White Walker problem that nobody was paying attention to. And so if you're going to introduce some kind of White Walker stuff, which is probably going to be the Black Rings, right? Like that would be the fucking White Walkers of this
Oh.
series. Then that could be interesting, but I don't want it like I don't know. It when you do spin-offs, it gets really iffy at that point. Because because one, if they don't stick the landing, who gives a fuck about a spin-off, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what the issue we had with Deceased. And then they spun it off into what was it? What was the second one? Because Dead Planet was the third one, wasn't it?
No, Dead Planet is the second one. The one in
With Red
between
Hood?
them with what?
Doesn't Red Hood was the second one, wasn't it?
Red Hood was the in between.
Yeah, so
Red
that one was the Killables or
Yeah,
Unkillables or something.
Unkillables.
So
Yeah.
I consider that the second one because
Okay,
it was
okay.
like 4 or 6 issues, right?
Yeah. And
So
then they also had a digital first series
yeah,
that was in between the first and second.
yeah. So I he has to stick the landing on this whole series for me to care about spinoffs. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
So, because I didn't really care after Deceased, like that ending, I was just kind of meh. But
Because for me personally, we've already seen Kal-El, the House of L's.
yeah,
We've seen Amazons, and now we've seen Magic with uh
the
the House of Storms or
yeah,
whatever it's called, the Kingdom of Storms or whatever. Um, I don't want there to be like, oh, we're gonna bring in Thanagar and all of the Hawkmen are gonna
mhm.
come in for a kingdom because I feel like that may be a little too much. Like bringing in other planets into this world,
Yeah, that would be too much.
I think it will be a little too much.
But you could
But
have the Kingdom of Thanagar.
if they make that a thing in this universe
Yeah.
where it's like, hey, we settled here like millions of years ago,
Well, I
and
feel like they should be like Viking esque.
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
and oh, that would be really good.
yeah.
That would actually be kind of cool. And
See,
like they have like their axes and their freaking
yeah,
maces and shit.
I would like to see a like evilish kind of Starfire, and it's the House of Fire. I would like to see
Ooh.
that, like, because it's an Elseworld, so this is where you can actually take characters and make them a little different than they
Hmm.
normally are,
Yeah.
right? Not everything has to be 100% true. This is where I would let Batman
So,
killing people slide.
so I'm starting. I don't want to make this promise. I'm just gonna say this:
Mhm.
if Tom Taylor sticks the landing, I may watch how. I may watch freaking Game of Thrones,
Oh, wow.
but
Tom Taylor,
I
you have
will.
a lot riding on this.
I will ask you
Mhm.
in the show.
Yeah,
I know that there's several different houses. I know that the White Walkers or whatever.
yeah.
I know that like Game of Thrones did a very good job, from what I've been told, about singling out certain individuals within a season, telling
Mhm.
separate stories, and then it meeting at the end for a big
Yes.
finale.
Yeah, a la Doctor Who-ish kinda style.
Yes.
Mhm.
So with this, taking the I in the sense of if there's spin-offs and everything else, I think what I would want is I want this first series to establish the world. We
Yeah.
are getting that establishment right now. I think that a spin-off could introduce something like the House of Fire,
Mhm.
or like the um like
The White Walkers.
something like a White Walkers or uh Swamp Thing in the Green. Like,
The House of Green. That'd be kind of cool.
yeah, like we start seeing like Poison Ivy,
Yeah.
we see Swamp Thing, all that get into the whole mess of things. I think you see the clashing of like whatever ending this does or
Yeah.
whatever ending this book has show a repercussion to one of the other houses in the spinoff.
Yeah. So, what's one thing that this can make you go really south on fast? Because I'll tell you what, I want 12 issues to go by, and I don't want to see one Joker.
I was just about to say, a if I see a creature that is supposed to be Joker-esque, I think I'm out. I
Yeah.
think that I'm just like it's too much at that point.
Yeah, so I don't want to see the Joker, which I hope Tom Taylor will stay away from this, but I will be acceptable. I will accept him coming out in a spin-off series, and it's like the Kingdom of Darkseid, and he's Darkseid's jester.
Ooh.
Yeah. We're making this way better than it's gonna be, right? Like,
Yeah,
we're making this so good.
We are going to read the spinoff and we're like, this is shit. What I came up with was so much better.
We're making this so much better than it's gonna end up being, which fucking sucks.
I need to get an in with Taylor. Like I need to find a way to like ask some questions.
Well, you already made him mad that one time.
I'm sorry, Taylor. I'm sorry, Taylor. They gave it to me.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go back before we make this story even better than it is. Kal-El goes down to the dungeon where we see a lot. There is so many Easter eggs in this dungeon where they're holding magic people. We obviously see Green Arrow down there. Harley's like, I don't think this is a good idea for you to be talking to the prisoner, Cal. And he's all like, you're excused. Like, I didn't tell you to be here. Like, get out of here. And Bruce is all like, she's talking to Bruce because it seems like they have a good connection, like Bruce and Harley. And he's like, Harley, you're not, you're employed to be a juggler. And she's like, I'm also, but I could juggle and give you advice. Like, she's kind of doing the therapist stuff. Like, I really love this. And she's just kind of saying like, you should lose the ears because it just makes me want to give you pets and treats. Like, so she kind of shits on Bruce. And they're kind of talking. But in the background, we see the Flash. We see Blue Devil, which was interesting. We see, okay, so who's the dude with the wings?
That is Ari. That is his creation from the Suicide Squad.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I forgot about that. So then, obviously, we see King Shark, but we've seen a bunch of different sharks.
Yeah.
So I don't know which one this is really, but I'm just going to assume King Shark. Then we see, I'm assuming, his other creation, which is the green guy.
So this isn't a creation from Tom Taylor. This is already in continuity of DC Comics. This is Lagoon Boy.
Oh, the one that Tom King killed like 50 million times?
For
in Infinite Crisis, doesn't he get himself killed over and over and over for trauma? Isn't that Lagoon Boy? Or no?
Oh, shit. Oh, you're thinking about Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah, Heroes in Crisis. Isn't that him?
Yes. Yeah. That was him.
Yeah. So yeah, that's him. And then
Detective Chimp.
Yeah. So Harley says, also locking up all these people without a crime as a precaution, bit crappy. And Detective Chimp in the next panel is like, she's right. And Bruce is like, shut up, monkey.
Shut up.
And so I thought that was kind of cool. And then, of course, we had this conversation between Kal-El and Green Arrow. And he's all like, I could kill you with a glance. And he's like, well, then fucking do it. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm glad your dad's dead, essentially, was what this conversation happens. And he's like, I'm not going to kill you. And he's like, why not? Because I am not lying to myself. We're not what you think we are. So Kal-El is really trying to say, we're good people. Like, I don't know why you hate us. When there's a whole bunch of people in prison for no reason around there.
I think this is very much the story of my parents are doing a whole bunch of shit and I'm kind of turning a blind eye.
Yeah.
And like I do kind of think it's a story of like privilege, of
Oh, for
clearly
sure.
privilege. Uh,
100%.
and he is kind of blinded because he's lived this life and
Yeah.
like he doesn't know anything else. He hasn't been humbled by working at a farm, you know?
Yeah.
So of course he's going to be like, this is normal. We're fine. We're keeping the kingdom safe, you know?
Yeah.
Um but it's so poetic about how he says we are not those kinds of people, and you turn the page
Yeah.
and you
It says
see
we're not killers.
yeah, we're not
So,
killers. And you see Jefferson, he's sleeping. There's a huge crash. He runs to his daughters. He's like, okay, what was that? Is that you? No, that wasn't me. Okay, what is it? He goes to his son's room, and Zala is there holding his son by his shirt. Jefferson is about to like strike her, and she's like, no, 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 no. See, I could just drop him. And she flies up really high in the air,
yeah.
and his son basically is like, I'm not scared of you, uh, alien. I will make it rain in your lungs. And she's like, no, no, you won't. And
Yeah.
just drops him.
Yeah.
And they don't show it, but he is like dead, dead.
Yeah.
Jefferson strikes Zala with a thing of lightning, and all she says was, that tickled, and then
Yeah.
flies away.
Yeah, and then it
Fuck.
says that sealed our own fate is sealed, and it says to be continued, and it looks like the bracelet that his son was wearing, I believe, gets
Yeah.
is just on the ground, bloodied. So yeah, Tom Taylor got me back with this issue, and I want to say the last time we reviewed this, I was like, I'll give it the next issue, but if it doesn't capture me, I'm not gonna really care about the series. And I have to say, I loved reading this. Like, it was a quick read. I enjoyed everything that happened in it. My only thing, and I know they're setting up a seed for a future thing to do with this, I just still don't like the Bruce thing, honestly. Um, but I mean, we'll see. And the reason why I don't like the Bruce thing is it's probably to set up a Bruce versus Superman fight where he can actually hold his own in the future. And I don't care. Like, I love when he's not a
You're
Kryptonian,
giving me flashbacks to
you
that
know?
TikTok conversation.
Yeah. I don't need him to be a Kryptonian to fight Superman. You know what I mean? It's why we
what
love
what
Batman.
if it's not a fight between him and Kal-El, and it's a fight between him and Zala?
It's the same thing.
It is, but I think it technically isn't. And the reason why, I will say
Mhm.
this, because Kal-El is the person who is somewhat thinking of the betterment of the kingdom, is
Yeah.
legitimately trying to be a good person, although blinded by the privilege that he has.
Yeah.
He's going to see Zala doing this as a bad thing.
Mhm.
He tries to stop her, she kills him, and then Bruce has to come in and stop her.
You think Superman's gonna die?
It's a possibility.
I don't think so. This is what I see happening. I see Zala, since she's more cutthroat, is going to try and kill him, and Bruce is gonna do the fucking Piccolo moment and fucking save Superman with his own life, or he's gonna step in and fucking do essentially what Wonder Woman did in BVS and save him, and he's gonna be like,
Do
"What
no
the
no
fuck?"
no no no.
Yeah, and he's gonna be like, "Oh, by the way, we're brothers," and then fucking beat the shit out of Zala for him.
I'm down.
So I can see that, and then we'll see where that goes from there.
Yeah.
But I think what needs to happen, if that's gonna happen, I need Superman to shit on Bruce a little bit more. So he feels really bad when he gets saved by Bruce. And he's like,
Yeah.
I can't believe I treated you like this for so long. Like, you're my actual brother. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then Bruce punches him. And he'd be like, yo, dad fucked my mom, bitch. Like, what the fuck? And then,
Well, we will get that story in issue 4. It is a
yeah.
flashback. We are going to get that story.
So we'll definitely see what happens. But yeah, interesting, solid weeks. But finally, we're talking about Batman 118, the end of James Tynion. You want to know something funny? Speaking of how I mentioned that wrestling podcast a while back, they talk about nerdy shit too, and one of the guys is a big DC fan. He like lets it slip every once in a while when they're talking about shit. Well, he was like, "Look at you all happy." And he was like, "Yeah." He was all like, "Batman was really good this week." He was James
Fuck
Tynion
yeah.
the fourth, and I was just all like, I put in the comments, I was like, correction, Ollie. I was like, the reason why you thought Batman was good is because it's a new writer and not James Tynion the fourth.
Fuck
So
yeah.
I didn't get a response, but I just thought it was so funny that people didn't pay attention to the writer switched on this and they just thought it was James Tynion.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but anyways, your initial thoughts after reading this, because I've been teasing this for the last couple of weeks.
You have. And I was just like, man, if Juice really likes this,
Yeah, that says a lot.
then something's up. Something's up. And like I'm in a very small comic book group
Yeah.
in my podcasting community. And we were talking like right before I started reading it, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm hearing really good things." And I'm like, "Fuck!" I just stopped everything. I was like, "I'm
Mhm.
gonna read it." Midway through, I said, "Fuck, this is good."
Yeah.
Midway, not even finished with the entire book yet, and I was just like, "Fuck, Williamson actually did it." Like again, this is only the first issue.
Yeah. It could go south.
I It can very much go south. I understand that this is a little bit of a passion project for him. He's
Yeah.
been wanting to do a solo Batman. I think everybody who is anybody in comics wants to do at least Batman and or Spider-Man in their
Yeah.
career. Those are the two biggest ones. Seeing this book, for one, it is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. And I'm almost tempted just because of we got the news of like Batman the anime series getting an audio drama and everything. I started to think about like how easy could I do like half of this book up like audio wise.
Yeah.
Like I was because the really cool thing about being an audio engineer and going to school for it, they've already given me like a giant library of sounds
Mhm.
that I don't even have to pay for. Like I
Yeah.
already have like a shit ton of stuff, and I'm just like, ooh, like this looks like fun. But damn, this
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah, this was pretty solid. So it starts off with now preview pages for this came out a while back where it showed some type of party happening and there was a bunch of people dressed up like villains. So Bruce is out catching normal thugs, which is always nice to see Batman do to remember that he's not just trying to get the kingpins of the world. He still goes after normal people breaking into, houses or whatever.
Yeah.
We get a couple goons that are like, don't be scared. Batman's not going to find anybody like us. Like, it's a big city kind of shit. And this one guy's like, no, man, that's Batman. And he's like, it's a gargoyle. Some dumbass put them all over the city a long time ago. They're all over the place. He's like, no, man, that's Batman. He's like, nah, look. And then there's a splash page of Batman just standing in the city with fireworks blowing up all over the place. And these cops doing typical cop stuff, just sitting in their cars, drinking their coffee and their donuts, and they run out and they're like, arrest us, arrest us. And he's like, what's going on? He's like, oh, we don't want to get beat up by the Batman. And then they just take him in. They're like, all right, fuck it. They're like, we were robbing that place over there. So the cops are like, all right, we didn't see anything, but all right, cool, we'll take you in. And so Batman like dips out. We see Barbara kind of like talking, doing her own Oracle type thing on her laptop. And she's like, hey, I got, we kind of get a recap of what's been happening, which is we see the stuff that was happening in Detective. We have kind of the Nightwing stuff.
So
We
no, no,
have,
no. So I have a question for you.
uh-huh.
What the fuck is that?
What?
In the center where we see Bruce kneeling down, we
Mm-hmm.
see somebody next to him, and then Nightwing.
So I don't know if that was hinting at everything that happened in King's Run, maybe. Because so I don't know what's happening in Frontier. Isn't what's his face part of Frontier? The
Who
Bat Dad, the
is
the
that? Him?
Flashpoint Batman. It looks kind of like him, just a different mask. I haven't been reading Frontier, so I don't know.
I'm gonna have to look at Frontier again because I was
Because
like,
that's a
"What the fuck is
Williamson
that?"
thing, isn't it?
That is a Williamson thing.
So I don't know. And I mean, if everything's continuity now, who even knows? We have some stuff that happens. What looks like it's happening in Justice League,
Yeah.
all that kind of jazz. And Batman saying like, no more than unusual, like going,
I really enjoyed the voices
yeah,
for Barbara and Bruce in this book. Like immediately after these guys get taken away, you see the little narration box of Barbara saying, "You really enjoyed that, didn't you?" And then Bruce saying, "Like, I don't know what you're talking about."
yeah,
Like it just felt organic, and I was just
yeah,
like, "That's the Batman humor.
yeah.
That's what I like."
And then she says, like, why don't you go train with Ghostmaker? This is the hint I mentioned a long time ago.
Yeah,
That was all like he left town to begin Clown Hunter's training. I hope we never see these characters again,
yeah.
unless I'm gonna kill them when I write for Batman. But for the most part, like, yeah, I don't care about that. So we know he's going away in his like spaceship type fucking Star Wars ship that he has. So hopefully we won't see them again. And then Barbara's like, "Oh yeah, well, something's going on at the Billionaires Club," and he's all like, "Oh, are they throwing a party?" Like, saying like, "Shouldn't I be there?" Which does he not? Does he have his money back?
No, he said he
Oh,
doesn't have. He says right here. He says, where does he say?
oh,
He
when I
says,
was, he wouldn't have gone when I was a billionaire. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm not invited. He's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Well, you're not really gonna like it because they have a theme, and the theme is villains of Gotham. And so everybody is dressed up as different villains from Gotham. So pretty cool imagery. And Batman goes in there and he's like, all right, I'm going to have to run facial recognition or whatever to try to find all them.
This next page, I really liked.
The one with Batman and the like panels of everybody different.
Yes, and the narration here, I
Yeah.
really enjoyed because like the whole thing is that like there are like
Props.
killers, I think it was hired
Yeah.
killers at this party, but they don't know because they're all dressed up. And so Batman in this next panel is like, okay, facial recognition, but also like who is real and who is not.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, oh, a real gun versus a prop gun is going to change everybody's stature, is going to change the way they walk.
Yeah.
Really being a detective, which we haven't fucking seen in so fucking long.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that was kind of cool. He talks about the security's been knocked out. We have a very good drawing of a Harley Quinn with a gun in her face, which is Mr. Freeze's gun. And then we just see a lot of the villains show up. We have like Two Face, we have Killer Croc. This was my only issue with the book,
Hmm.
was where this Killer Croc starts beating the shit out of everybody, and he gets burnt to a crisp by Firefly, and it was Batman in a Killer Croc suit. So seemed like a pretty good Killer Croc suit. I don't know where he would have got one so quickly. You know what I mean? It's a very nitpick thing,
Yeah, it
but
is a little bit of a nitpick thing, but like at the same time, like it's a villain's party.
yeah, he
Why
could
would
have
he
just been Batman.
but like I
You
feel
know?
like I mean, even though there's some people at the end of this whole confrontation, they're like, "Oh man, nice costume," and they think it's just a normal person.
Yeah. Well,
Still,
you could
even
have.
after the conflict, it's like,
Yeah.
no, that's really Batman. People, come
Yeah.
on.
And you could have had somebody been like, thinking Batman's a villain. That's a good one. You know what I mean? Because people
Yeah,
don't like Batman in Gotham.
yeah.
So, like, very interesting. Like, so we see Firefly do that. Then we see the Joker. This was something I mentioned that I had saw a long time ago. I was like, ugh. I was like, all right, hopefully he's not a big part of it. He's not, tries to take some shots at Batman. Of course, Batman knocks him the fuck out. Firefly actually played more of a part in this than anything.
But like the best part about this is that these aren't the real heroes. I mean, these aren't the real villains. This isn't really Joker. This isn't really Mr. Freeze. This isn't
Mhm.
really Riddler.
The freeze gun works though.
Yeah, but they it's stolen.
Mm.
These are just random hired killers that are dressed up as these villains because they wanted to like be easily accessible in the billionaire club.
Oh yeah, that actually makes a lot more sense to be honest. See, that's the problem though. Like,
Because look at Mr. Freeze in the photo of like where all the different panels are.
yeah,
It is clearly like a bigger set guy. That's not Mr. Freeze.
yeah. I could have sworn that was a different. Yeah, okay, you got me there. You got me there. But yeah, because when I saw the freeze thing, like I just completely forgot
The
about that.
the only one that is real, I believe, is Firefly. He's the
Yeah,
one that hired these killers, and they're
yeah,
about to like hold up the billionaires club for all the money.
yeah. So we have that. We have a Catwoman hit on Batman, which is pretty funny. We have classic Scarecrow. We have another Joker in there, and it's funny because this is a good way to play stuff off in Gotham. All these billionaires, of course, being as naive as fuck, were like, "That was amazing entertainment." Like,
Yeah.
oh my god, they went off this year. Like, it's so crazy. So, and then there's, I don't know why, a young girl there and she is dressed up as fucking what's her name?
Punchline.
Punchline. And she's like, "Can I have your autograph?" And he signs it with just a bat symbol, which I think is kind of cool. And then he does the whole like classic smoke bomb to get away thing, which I thought was kind of cool. And then we see Barbara talks about Batman a little bit, and he's like, "I'm not used to Gotham celebrating me," which is interesting.
Mhm.
This is the one thing that kind of sucks about like switching storylines so fast between new writers is like he was just really hated
Yeah.
for the longest time and now he's just automatically being celebrated. I'm like that the gap was
I
like pretty big.
I think that the whole point is that like people realize that like Batman was the one that saved them from the
Yeah.
magistrate and from like because yeah they saw all this fancy stuff from the magistrate that was going to keep them safe, and then it fucking turned into freaking Terminator,
Yeah.
and they were like having a police state and they couldn't go out and they were being shut into their houses, and so they saw, hey, maybe this was the wrong choice. And then
Yeah.
Batman saved them. So I think that is why it was so quick that, like, oh, fuck, he really is a hero.
Yeah.
But this next page is what made me decide, like, this is a good book.
Oh yeah. So Barbara says this is far from the first time that Batman has won. What did you do in the past after solving a big case? And it's a montage of him just hanging out with his friends essentially.
You see
So
him with Gordon, you see him with Damian, you see him with Catwoman, you see him with Clark, and then the last one you see him playing chess with Alfred. And
yeah.
I'm just like, God damn it.
Yeah. And then we have like, he's doing the classic, he's on top of a gargoyle kind of thing. And he's like, "Hear me out. You don't have to do a thing like to retreat into the darkness. Why don't you come hang out with us?" And Dick Grayson is coming in through the window with some coffees. And he's like, "Is that Batman? Tell him to stop brooding and get over here. Like, we got bagels." And so I like that he's keeping like Nightwing in Bloodhaven, where that's Tom
Hmm.
Taylor's doing that. So like, and we know Barbara's a big part of that story. So I like that Barbara's still in Bloodhaven, kind of doing all that jazz. And then Oracle's like, I'm going. Then he tells Oracle, "I'm going dark for 48 hours." So typical Batman, like doesn't let anything good happen, but it's because he sees a blimp. Love blimps in Gotham. There's only apparently 15 blimps in the world or some shit like that. I saw that randomly on a article or TikTok or something like that. But there's like 15 blimps on this page. So that doesn't happen in Gotham. Gotham's got blimps. And it says Batman Incorporated arrested. And it has Man of Bats, El Gacho, Batman of China, the Dark Ranger, and the Hood. And it says breaking news. And he's like, "What happened?" And then it says murder across a panel. So I was like, "Oh, okay, interesting." And then we see Bruce fly out to Bandanesia. I don't know how to say it. Bandanesia. So he goes to another country and he's talking the language, all this jazz. We get introduced to new character, you
Hmm.
know. Looks like a badass detective Laura Croft type.
I thought
Uh,
the same thing.
yeah, and she's searching about like this killer or whatever, and we see she's trying to get evidence, and Batman is there, like this badass Batman in the corner. He's like, "Don't touch that," and she's like, "Holy shit!" And she's like, "You trying to give me a heart attack?" And he's like, he's like, "I gotta collect this evidence or whatever." And this is when we find out about Abyss. This is the new villain that's Batman's gonna be fighting. The I love this idea that he's dead. So
Yeah.
Batman's trying to figure out why Batman Incorporated killed this guy. So this is solid, but I also thought the designer was solid when we first started reading
Hmm.
about the designer. So I don't want to praise this too much, but it was cool because Abyss apparently beat the shit out of all the Batman Incorporated characters, it looks like. But then they finally got the upper hand on him and they killed him. So Bruce,
Allegedly.
yeah, allegedly. But Bruce kind of hints, he's like, it seems like they did. It's kind of, he says something along those lines. Um, and then he's all like, okay, and he says they were all influenced by Batman. Yes, before they were in Batman Incorporated, they were known as the Club of Heroes. We teamed up from time to time, but they disbanded, and I stopped keeping track of them. And this is where it gets crazy because he says that Bruce Wayne no longer has the funds to support their mission. And we find out their new benefactor, and you get a page turn, and it's fucking Lex Luthor.
Luther.
I was like, God damn, this was a good issue.
Yeah, it was.
Like, I told you, I told you guys weeks ago that I was all like, I have hope. That's all I can say. The next issue could blow dick. It's very possible because I've been up and down on the Robin run.
Yeah.
We saw preview pages to the next Robin, and it's kind of like,
There's one sequence that I'm just like,
Yeah.
did you have to do it? But
Yeah. So we'll see. But the next issue is called Who is Abyss? So I'm intrigued, man. Batman trying to solve the case of a dead villain, and it involves people he used to work with, and Luthor is their benefactor. Is this going to be a setup? Is it going to be like Incorporated has finally gone rogue and they're doing their own things? I think this is a good way to use Batman Incorporated, especially if they want to, have these characters be thrown away, and maybe they did kill Abyss, and Batman's trying to figure out why Luthor would hire them to kill these people. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because I've always said this, you guys have heard me hark on it many a times. It is okay to create characters so they can die.
Yes.
Totally fine. And I'm hoping this is what Williamson's doing, and he's not trying to create this Abyss character to be somebody that's going to be around for the next 50 years. You know what I mean? That's the dream, but it's very rare that anybody's able to ever do that. You know what I mean? I think Hush was the last character that, maybe the Court of Owls. Court of Owls is probably newer than Hush. So, but Hush is stuck around just like that. But since Court of Owls, I don't think there's any other character that has popped up onto the scene that people just want to keep seeing and seeing and seeing. So it's very rare that writers can pull out characters like that. Punchline is the only one that I think will survive Tynan's run. But yeah, I have hope. That's all I can say. What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
I'm so happy that we got a good Batman.
Yeah.
This was so good. Like I said, whenever I saw the montage of like his old routine and like who he was before all the mess of Tynan's run, I was just like, fuck, like that is the Batman that I want back.
Mm-hmm.
And like it kind of gives you a glimmer of hope. Like Williamson is acknowledging, hey, this is who Batman was, and this is the Batman that everybody cares about.
Yeah.
Like maybe we can get there.
Mm-hmm.
And having this like weird mystery, I enjoy Detective Batman.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
The mystery of it all. Like for me, I feel like with us reading so many comics, to turn a page and be surprised, to turn a page and get the guess wrong, is going to be fun. And I have hope that's what this is going to do.
Yeah. I want to say that there is a little bit more pressure on Williamson to knock this out of the park because this is now monthly. So he has no excuse to not fucking knock it out of the park because he's not having to suffer the bi-weekly stress.
Granted, which means we will not get another Batman until 2022, until next month.
Yeah. Although we do have Batcat 2 weeks. That's like the Catwoman week.
So
I don't know what next week is.
let
Is it
me actually
Nightwing and
see.
stuff?
Today is the
7th.
8th.
Or, well, this week is the 7th,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
14th
So
will be
next would be the 14th. Let's actually look here. We get Batgirls next week. We get Batman the Adventures Continues, the Imposter finale, Urban Legends, I Am Batman, Robin and Batman. I think the Catwoman week is the
the 21st.
21st.
Yeah.
Batcat
Yes.
number 9, Batman One Dark Night with Jock, and then Catwoman and Lonely City.
Yeah. So we mentioned that we've talked about this off the podcast, but just to let everybody know in the future, we will have 2 normal shows the next 2 weeks, and the final week of the year is going to be our annual top 10 list of Batman comics.
Yes, which
So,
I made the list all the way up until November.
okay.
So all I need to make is like December
Yeah.
basically.
What's going to be funny is I feel like a few books from December and November could easily be on the list.
Oh,
So,
100%. I
yeah.
already know which ones probably.
Yeah. So we will be doing that. Once we look through the list, we'll see if we can actually compile a top 10 for each of us or if it's going to be more of a top 5. Because this year was a little rough, but I think there's still some gems out there. So that will be the final issue. What we're probably going to end up doing is recording the final 2 episodes of the year back to back if we have the time for it. So you guys can expect that. But for the next 2 weeks, we will still have a normal show as normal, but the final one will just be our review show. Unless something really pops off, but I doubt that's going to happen. It's the end of the
Yeah.
year. Doesn't really. But yeah, so that's going to be it. But Clay, what do you got going on this week, man?
This week, I just got finished recording with Star Wars Alliance. We reviewed Revenge of the Sith. We did a little retro on that.
Nice.
Actually, a little bit more fun than I remember it being. So go check that out. On
Was that the last movie?
No, that was episode 3 back in like 2006.
What was the one that was just had Sith in the title that just came out a couple years ago? Wasn't that a Sith movie? What were the last 3 movies called?
Last 3 was
Force
Force
Awakens,
Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Return of or no, sorry, it was
Skywalker or something, right?
yeah. Oh shit, what was the last movie called?
Something Skywalker, wasn't it?
Yeah,
The
but I
Last
can't remember
Skywalker?
no, not The Last Skywalker. Fuck, what was the title?
Yeah, I thought Sith was in one of the damn fuck, dude. I haven't watched those in so long. Yeah, The Last Jedi was the hated one that everybody hated. I fucking love that one. Yeah, it was the Return of Skywalker?
The Rise of
The
Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody hated that one too. I didn't mind it. Although I've only ever seen it once, so I'd like to see it a second time to see what's up because that movie felt like it had another hour or so worth of information.
Oh yeah, it felt like there was a lot on the cutting room floor of
Yeah.
that movie.
Yeah,
But
where's the Abrams cut or the fucking Skywalker cut? Huh? Where's that at?
so
Because what's the not Poe, Finn?
yeah,
Like his story was what? Like I remember that shit. Like
there's rumors of him having a Disney Plus show. So
he needs
we'll
it
we'll
because like
see.
his story made no sense in that final film. Like
Yeah, no.
he got less spotlight than that one girl that everybody kind of thought was the daughter to fucking what's his face, the Han Solo's best friend.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like she had a bigger role than what Finn did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is.
But I have that going on, and then so we're gonna have to work schedules out next week
Okay.
because next Thursday I'm watching Spider-Man
Oh, okay.
twice.
I'm trying. So anxiety's been good to me lately. I played a horror game today that I didn't want to kill myself after. So I survived. Cause dude, playing Poppy Playtime scared the fuck out of me. I literally had to try to play that game 3 times. I played a
Fuck.
game called The Mortuary Assistant that people have been like being like, oh my god, this game's super fucking scary.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything about it, but I'm gonna try to have that video out tomorrow or the next day. I think it's gonna be an entertaining watch. For reasons that are not necessarily what you would expect. but
Yeah.
I was able to survive the game. So I think, and in my last couple of streams, I've been able to stream a little bit more. So I want to try to work towards a more solid stream schedule. So that
Okay.
may be Monday, Wednesday, Friday again. So we'll have to plan it out. But I was thinking that everybody wants me to try to do the 13 days of stream miss again. So that might be kind of crazy, but I had to work that out. But yeah, so if you're doing that, we could probably record Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it's what we're recording this podcast on right now, anyway. So we'll see. But yeah, for me, ladies and gentlemen, just go check out my YouTubes. That's everything I'm doing right now. If you do follow me on TikTok, though, I've been uploading a video every single day on TikTok and my YouTube gaming channel because I'm doing a test right now to see if it's better to post on TikTok or YouTube for shorts. Short-term content is what I should say, forum content. And yeah, it's been going pretty interesting so far. One video is kicking all of TikTok's ass, so that's pretty interesting. But that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome again. Thank you, Joshua Williamson. All right, peace out, guys.